The 1840s through the 1850s. There wasn't a whole lot that went on in this decade, but some interesting events did occur, such as the Mexican War, the Californian Gold Rush, the Oregon Trail, and more. But I will mention that later on. But for now, let's dive into the 6 major themes of this decade, starting with the big events. January 13th, 1840. The steamship Lexington burned and sunk in Long Island Sound. This was caused by the engine running full speed for too long and it catching fire. Unfortunately, crewmen failed in putting the fire out, causing the boat to sink. May 24th, 1844. The first telegram was sent from the U.S. Capitol to Baltimore by somebody by the name of Samuel Morse. May 20th, 1845. The Franklin expedition set sail from Britain. All 129 men on the expedition were lost during their attempt to explore the Arctic. Late summer of 1845. The Irish potato famine started. This was caused by widespread failures in potato crop. This would later be known as the Great Famine. April 25th, 1846. Mexican troops ambushed and killed a patrol of U.S. soldiers. Reports of the incident inflamed tensions between the two nations. December of 1846. The Donner Party. A party of American settlers and wagon trains became stranded in the snow-covered Sierra Nevada mountains in California and resorted to cannibalism to survive. February 22nd, 1847. U.S. troops commanded by General Zachary Taylor defeated a Mexican army at the Battle of Buena Vista in the Mexican War. March 29, 1847. U.S. troops commanded by General Winfield Scott captured Veracruz in the Mexican War. September 13th through 14th, 1847, U.S. troops entered Mexico City and effectively ended the Mexican War. January 24th, 1848, James Marshall, a mechanic at John Sutter's sawmill in Northern California, recognized some unusual nuggets. His discovery would set off the Californian Gold Rush. Summer through fall of 1840, William Henry Harrison, also known as our 9th U.S. president, won the presidency. February 10th, 1840, Queen Victoria of England married Prince Albert. March 4th, 1841, William Henry Harrison was inaugurated as President of the United States. He delivered a 2-hour inaugural address in very cold weather, and as a result, he caught pneumonia. April 4th, 1841, President William Henry Harrison died only a month in office. He was the first American president to die in office and was succeeded by Vice President John Tyler. November 9th, 1841, Edward VII of England, son of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, was born. August 29th, 1842, the First Opium War ended. November of 1844, James Knox defeated Henry Clay in the U.S. presidential election. March 4th, 1845, James Knox was inaugurated as President of the United States. May 13th, 1846, the U.S. Congress declared war against Mexico. December 6, 1847, Abraham Lincoln took a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. February 23, 1848, former President John Quincy Adams died after collapsing in the U.S. Capitol building. July 12th through the 19th of 1848, a conference at Siena Falls, New York, took up the issue of women's rights and planted the seeds of the suffrage movement in the U.S. November 7th, 1848, Zachary Taylor was elected President of the United States. December 5th, 1848, President James Knox, in his annual address to Congress, confirmed the discovery of gold in California. March 5th, 1849, Zachary Taylor was inaugurated as the 12th President of the U.S. The people of 1840 through 1850 sure loved their music. I mean, there's pages and pages of just music that everybody enjoyed, but I'll only name off the biggest hits of each year, from 1840 to 1850s. Starting with Consider the Lilies from 1840, Molly Blonde, 1841, The Blind Boy Come, 1842, The Boatman's Dance from 1843, The Blue Janita from 1844, Crampa Boy, Bright Source of Pleasure from 1845, The Bridge of Sighs, 1846, Be Kind to the Loved Ones at Home, 1847, Ben Bull or Oh, Don't You Remember, from 1848, Just As I Am Without One Plea, 1849. Now, you can't have pop culture without the sports. But the people from 1840 through the 1850s loved these sports like no other, in which the sports include boxing, cricket, curling, horse racing, rowing, shooting and fishing contests, and golf and tennis. And now on to the slang words of 1840 through the 1850s. And mostly these slang words contain insults. There was never any slang word that was nice. Church belle, a talkative woman. Foozler, a clumsy person. Gibface, an ugly person. Hornswoggler, a fraud or a cheat. Gollux, a fat man. Meter, a coward. Pigeon-livered, cowardly. Vazzy, stupid. A whooper-up, a singer that makes more sound than music. Chuckaboo, a nickname given to a close friend. Fly ring, a term for a polished bald head. And now we move on to the food this decade consumed. There was actually not a whole lot of fancy food that these people would eat, because a lot of their diets contained corn and beans, along with pork. And in the north, cows provided milk, butter, and beef. And if you were lucky, you were treated with mutton, sugar, tea, dried fruit, hot cakes, cold bread, sausages, fried potatoes, soup, roast turkey, cranberry sauce, boiled ham, and vegetables. And now, onto the fashion. In this decade, fashion was influenced by Gothic revival. The fashionable 1840s woman was demure, constrained by an unforgiving silhouette, whilst menswear was understated as the bourgeois Victorian male became the fashion leader. The clearest influence on women's wear was the Gothic revival, a movement that imitated the architecture of medieval period. Their dresses were dominated by narrow arches and angles, and this silhouette consisted of a long waist bodice, tight narrow sleeves, and a full, dome-shaped skirt that now skimmed the floor. This shape was achieved by a corset that ran from the chest down over the hips. This featured a V-shape effect that emphasized the long, small waist and sloped shoulders. And a bunch of these dresses consisted of silk and common fabric. They also often wore bonnets and sometimes coats over their dress. But unfortunately, women need to make their own clothes by themselves. The menswear often consisted of coats, like the frock coat, the tailcoat, and they often wore top hats. They also too had an exaggerated hourglass silhouette, and this was achieved with padding and closely shaped coats, giving way to a long, narrow line. The male waistline dropped, as in women's wear, for a long fitted look. Sleeves were narrow and no longer gathered, which this created a puffed shoulder, but it fit smoothly into a sloping shoulder line. They often wore this with trousers and dress shoes, and if they had any facial hair, they would design and style them. Children too had to follow fashion rules. They also wore dresses, while plain in shape with a short bodice and narrow sleeves, and these dresses could be decorated with fine embroidery, which often had complex design and lace. When babies reached about 9 months old, they were put into shorter frocks that allowed them to begin to move, along with short cotton drawers. Both boys and girls wore these shortened dresses until about the age of 4 or 5. And now onto the inventions. On January 10, 1840, the penny postage was introduced in Britain. The fax machine was invented in 1843 in Scotland by Alexander Bain. Antiseptics were invented in 1847 in Hungary. The typewriter, safety pin, and the grain elevator were also invented. But these inventions were the only ones I could find in this decade. And now onto the values of the public. Some religion that was practiced in this decade was baptism, revivalism, Christianity, and evangelical Methodism. There wasn't a whole lot I could find on the values and the mindset of society during this decade, but a lot of people believed in religion during this time, and it greatly influenced their lifestyle, their fashion, their mindset, and beliefs. And this is all that I have for my final. Thank you for listening.